We have seen the footage of Pakistan and the Marriott Hotel in Jakarta, well fortified. The security plan was there. They have sufficient space. Even vehicle tried to penetrate. They did the very best, which is marvelous. Looking at our local context, some of our soft targets are so close to the main road. I can fortify, some of my colleagues can fortify the main entrance, but certain things are beyond our control. Bus stops, some soft targets are located on the main highway, space constraint. Of course, these designs were all old designs. Nobody thought Al-Qaeda would be ever in existence. There is a serious concern. Looking at even our evacuation centers, we are running out of space. Sometimes we find there is no space for evacuation centers. Just what are the arrangements that has been made? Nowhere that I can go down to the main road and look out for anything. Bus stops are so close, any bus can park. So just a serious concern that I'd like to share. Thank you very much.
If I may, sir, that's a fantastic question. But we've got to look at history. Because you can't do anything about that problem apart from put as much technology as you can to identify when a bad situation occurs. If we go back to the Bishopsgate bomb in 1993, once the IRA had dumped that lorry in Bishopsgate, there was nothing we could do. Unfortunately, we couldn't defuse it. They gave us 25 minutes, actually ended up giving us 55 minutes. By virtue of a series of circumstances, and trust me, I tried, I was the senior commanding officer that morning, we could not defuse that vehicle. So we had to move into Jasperswell. We had to move in to keeping people safe and living with the consequence and hoping that the detonation would do as least damage as possible. Because you move beyond the stage, it's an interesting decision-making process when you can't do anything more about it. And I remember that day making a very bold decision, bear in mind this is 1993, not 2009, of sending one of my patrol cars within 100 yards of that bomb with its loud hailer going, saying, stay in the buildings, because we developed the concept of internal evacuation, which wouldn't work on 9/11, but does work in most scenarios. So from my opinion, sir, to answer your question, you have to maximise technology so that you discover the vehicle has been left or there's something suspicious as best you can. And there are many methods of doing that. But once the baby's out of the bathwater and it's stuck there, you have to move into safety and contingency and not threatened about what can we do to let the authorities deal with it. And I don't think we'll ever get away with that unless we build every hotel, as indeed they are, as indeed the American embassy is in Kuwait, which has a standoff of a mile, And then, how do you get your customers into the hotel? It's very, very difficult, and I know my police colleagues will struggle with this one, but it's the decision between preventative and response action and saving the lives because you had no other consequence but to move into safe lives as opposed to prevent and deter.
I'd like to perhaps also just echo the point. Like in Mumbai, the attack that happened on the Victoria bus terminal was packed with people, and obviously the police there didn't have the correct weapons to engage the attackers. But the majority of lives were saved because of an alert train announcer that noticed where the terrorist was coming from and directed the rest of the people to leave the station via a different exit. And he saves hundreds and hundreds of lives on that day. So these are again the very tangible things which your officers can do. And when you have good systems that can flag out anomalies like those, that's where you have the chance to alert the authorities. We will be able to respond as quickly as possible to deal with the threat while you deal with the mitigating the consequence, like evacuating your people to a safe place so that if anything happens, lives can be saved. So those are really how we see our whole system working together to deal with threats. And rest assure you, if you have those doubts that still exist, do engage us in the SSWG framework. We have people identified to work with you, and we'll continue to address those real and pressing concerns that you may have.
Thank you very much for that question. I think it's a very important one that we must address. The Marriott attack in Islamabad, the standoff distance was 120 feet. I myself visited the hotel after the attack. And there was a Delta barrier. And the Delta barrier basically prevented the dumper truck from going into the driveway and detonating inside the compound. And if that happened, more than 1,000 people would have died. But the Delta barrier effectively prevented the truck from detonating inside the compound. But the truck had an extraordinarily large quantity of explosives. And the standoff distance of 120 feet didn't prevent it. If you look at the US Embassy, the standards for US embassies is 100 feet. And you can see that with that amount of explosives, it would have destroyed at least most diplomatic missions. So I think that it is important for us to understand that today we are at a phase where target hardening itself is not the solution. We can certainly harden certain targets. We can harden our airports, we can harden some VIP structures, certain organizations that we need to protect. But certainly hotels, banks, such soft targets will always remain vulnerable. And that is why I said that the human terrain is the key in the fight against terrorism. That means the people themselves must become more vigilant. People themselves must be more alert. And I said that there's no terrorist attack that can be conducted by a group without going through those 14 critical stages. And if our people are sufficiently educated, sufficiently aware, sufficiently vigilant, it will be very difficult for a terrorist group to plan, prepare and execute a terrorist attack, particularly a large attack, particularly an attack that involves more than one target. And I think that is why this particular event is so important, because Singapore government has decided not only to invest in strengthening the understanding of security in the minds of law enforcement, security intelligence and other agencies, but take it to the business community, to take it to the community. Thank you.
How do we ensure that the management running the security agency qualified? Not that because they have the money to set up a company and employ the people, but they have certain qualifications so that they are knowledgeable, they have the know-how, and they are current. And this is to ensure that we have quality service from the top to the bottom.
If I understand your question correctly, you're asking how the private security industry can best police itself so we get a standard of quality that is acceptable, as well as the law enforcement agency. I guess that's what you're asking, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
This is not just running a business. Okay. We must have competent and capable leadership, perhaps from the CEO level downwards. I do not know.
Okay, maybe I can help there, because in my wanderings in promoting Project Griffin, I've had the privilege of experiencing various standards of security industry across the globe, and we're just about to launch Griffin in South Africa. And I said to Raymond when I was here 3 weeks ago, and I said, I've got a problem because there's 122 security companies in Durban. And he said, Don, we've got 262 in Singapore, so the problem's greater. I think what you have to do, and if we look at the United Kingdom, where we have the Security Industry Authority, which has only really been a regulated engagement for the last 3 years, and they're slowly progressing their way through the 300,000 security personnel and respective management that goes with that. And as someone, I think it was Jasper said, to shoot an elephant needs more than one shot, or if you're going to eat an elephant, you need more than one chunk. You've got to chunk your way through this and decide where your concentration needs to go first. And, you don't need to look, and I'm not being sycophantic of G4S, you don't need to look at the G4Ss of the world, because they're a global institution with infrastructure and good management. You need to look at the lesser of that 262, the smaller organisations who've got 40 guards who are looking after a premise, and position yourself to say, are they meeting your standards? Are they meeting your quality? And then when you, whether it's a Sheraton hotel or whatever location, can come to some authority and say, well, what is Don Randall security? Are they qualified? And you've got to build up that passport of both the company and the officer. And in the UK, we're trying to find the way where we can get Griffin actually accredited into the guard's passport. We're looking to see with the various initiatives how we accredit a building that is engaged in all the various security measures so that its occupants feel safer. So I don't know the Singaporean approach to this, but in England the models are out there. The Security Industry Authority, and my very good friend Baroness Ruth Hennig is the chairperson of that, and we talk often about how you get that standard and how you identify that standard. And indeed, in some of the governance responsibilities I have in my BOE hat, how you ensure that the quality of guarding, the quality of management of that guarding, the quality of contingency, the quality of response is managed. And again, I think that's a partnership between law enforcement and the authority with the responsibility to manage it, and working with the industry. That's the trick. The trick is to go along to the security companies and say, what are your problems? What do you want heightened? And work at it that way. You've got to work at it from both ends to get the best product popping out of the middle and then move you forward. And I'm sorry, I'm not sufficiently qualified for what you do here to be able to talk any further on that one.
I think the suggestion or the question that you have is pertinent, which is why I think my minister just mentioned about the training program that we have in mind for executives to be to undergo various training, 3 days of training on precisely issues like what they should do, how they can be better aware about security as well as safety considerations in running organizations. So in that score, I think we are already moving. As you all are well aware, we already regulate or license unarmed as well as armed guards in terms of their competencies and qualifications. Now, I think as we move along, we do hope to see a vibrant private security industry and move upgrade the platform of knowledge that they can acquire and develop that along. And for that to happen, we would obviously need close communication and partnership with the private security industry. And we welcome again feedback that you all have on what are the precise areas you feel are lacking. We will endeavour to provide relevant information to keep you current so that you can best structure and organise yourself going forward. And as mentioned, Guardian, or what is known as Griffin in the City of London, is again one of these structures that we are setting up, and we strongly encourage you all to participate in this network that we are setting up.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of applause for our panel, please.